Hey guys, here we go into a film study we're going to do on Jorge Linares versus Luke Campbell. And this is for the upcoming fight Linares versus Lomachenko. And I did kind of a video on this already. Um, Not only does it not necessarily do the fight justice, because this is a huge fight. This might be, you know, um, I don't want to say fight of the year, because to be honest, I do think that Lomachenko is going to dominate him. But I think that Linares is wily enough to make it a fun and exciting fight. Very similar to what Gary Russell Jr. did. Um, I think Gary Russell Jr. is a better fighter than Linares, but I think that in the similar vein, it's going to be a tough fight for Linares, and Linares is not going to quit. Sometimes he doesn't always have the greatest showings. In some of his losses. Like late in the fights, he fades. So people might say that if that happens in this fight, oh, Linares always fades. Oh, who didn't see this coming? Who didn't see it coming, right? Everyone should probably see it coming, but it's still going to be a good fight nonetheless. And we're going to talk about a few of the reasons why it might be a little different than what a lot of people think, even what I think. But first, real quick, I want to go over some things. I was hanging out with my buddy, um, and we were looking at these numbers. Now, don't look at those ones yet, but look at these ones. Um, this is a historical comparison report um, of how many punches per round, right? A fighter won. Now, when you think about who's going to win in a fight, a lot of people look at, oh, this guy has better technique, he has more speed, he has more power, right? But they don't understand like any of the intricacies of a fight, right? Um, if you have a really great jab, right? You have a really great jab and you have a hard, stiff jab and you can land it really well, but your opponent has a really great pull counter, right? For the jab, right? Like say Mayweather, right? Even though Mayweather doesn't use his to knock his opponents out, or like we'll say Kovalev, who's really good at wrecking people's jabs, right? Against Shabransky, right? And I use this example a lot because it's so clear. Um, the fighter with the great jab is just going to get his ass kicked against the fighter who has the great counter to the jab, right? So you want to look at how this person's offense lines up with this person's offense, and this person's defense lines up with this person's defense. And you want to kind of mesh them together and look at them and see how the fight is going to play out, right? And those are some of the things you want to look at. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because if you look at the numbers here, Campbell averages 60. I don't know if my mouse is in the right spot, but he averages 63.4 punches thrown per round in his fights on average, right? He's a very young fighter, right? I think he only had like 14 fights or something when he got this chance. But Linares throwing around 59.2 punches per round. And this is if the fighters basically kind of let them do what they want to do, right? It's an average. Linares is a little more how do you say it? It's a little more reliable because it's through 6 fights, right? But on average, averaging 60 punches a round, right? Now, when they fight each other, right, Luke Campbell throws 524 punches throughout the whole fight, right? 12 rounds, averaging 43.6 punches per round. Linares only throws 414, averaging 34.5 punches per round, right? That is much different, right, than these numbers here, right? Much different. Campbell is throwing only 75% of the punches that he threw during the course of his other fights, right? And Linares is throwing nearly half, right? I think it winds up being like 56% or something. Again, 34.5 from 60 and 43.6 from 63, right? It's a huge difference. And we're going to talk about why that is when we do the film study. But the reason that it's important for the film study is now the drop off for Campbell is not nearly as high as it is for Linares, right? Linares gets controlled, and that's what it is, right? And we'll talk about that. It's being controlled by your opponent, right? Because you don't allow them the space to set their punches up, or you create space by moving back, or you create space by feinting them or probing with your jab, or even just throwing punches, right? But The reason that it's important is because Lomachenko has not really fought anybody who is able to create space against him, right? That's really able to feint him or make him react. He hasn't fought anybody that can slow down his offense, right? And his offense is beautiful. It's amazing, right? But we haven't had to really see him second guess his offense at all because nobody that he really fights is able to control the space between them better than he is. And in this fight, there's like a decent amount of Linares being able to do that to Campbell, right? So we're gonna go ahead and watch it in slow mo. We're gonna do 3 rounds, I think, and I'm gonna do like very little pausing. But right away, what do you notice, right? They come out and Campbell is probing with his glove. He's circling it out there, right? And what does that do? That makes Linares think, right? If he's not doing that, if he just has his hands right here, Linares comes in, feint, slip this way, throw a left hook, slip this way, throw a right hand, right? And he's just freely able to throw these punches and let off his combinations. But because he's making Linares think with this lead hand, right? And now Linares says, oh, I know this game. I've played this. And this is a very common theme between right and left-handed fighters. It's very, very common because the jab is not nearly as much of a weapon for like landing it because of the way that your hand lines up with your opponent's hand. It just kind of comes right here because your hand is on your chin, right here. You just never land it. I mean, not never, right? Linares does the thing where he steps on the inside, and I talk about that a little bit. But it's just not nearly as important to land the jab in a conventional, in orthodox versus southpaw as it is to use it to control your opponent to stop them from basically taking lead foot dominance or a superior foot position against you, right? But look at Linares, right? We're not going to do a lot of rewinding. I'm going to be talking over it, but look at how he's feinting here, right? And he's able to slip on the inside just with his active guard, right? He doesn't even know if that punch is coming, right? But he also might be seeing that Luke Campbell probe. He's stepping right here, right? And when Luke Campbell steps, he knows he's taking lead foot dominance, so he knows he needs to move his head, right? So a great understanding of the intricacies of the right and the southpaw and conventional style. I think actually, like, I can't remember how many of the last few fights of Linares have been against southpaws, but it's at least 2. I know he fought that Filipino guy. We had Roach in the corner, and Roach was just giving him the worst goddamn advice of all time. Again, right here, Linares stepping. And now he has this interesting thing where he's probing here. He steps, right? He puts all his weight on his lead leg. And then he takes another step with it, right? And he takes that step to the inside, right? And he's able to kind of land that jab. But also notice how he's not really able to follow it up, right? So a lot of people talk about setting up your punches with your jab. But notice he's on the inside, right? And in order to get a great shot with your straight right, you want your foot to be on the outside because the angle is going to be different. It's the difference between being here and throwing a right hand, right, and being here when your target's over here, right? Because now all the power, when it crosses your body, it's not going to be in the right spot. And the reason that that's important is because of the way that fighters train, right? They train only one way, right? You stand here, the bag's in front of you, boom, 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 right? But now all of a sudden, you're stepping to the inside, your target's here, but you still have all your power here. So you gotta change the trajectory of your punch during the course of a fight, but change it in a way that you don't actually train it, right? And that's part of it is because of muscle memory. Part of it is because of a flawed way of training your punches in the first place. But it winds up being very difficult for him to follow that shot up. As you can see right here, he has no follow-up to it. He gets to the inside, lands the jab, and he misses both of his shots. He might graze him with that left hook coming, like looping around, but it doesn't look like it actually lands, and it's definitely not effective even if it is. But look at the active guard, and look at how many like real combinations have been thrown so far, right? 2, right? Maybe it was only 1, I don't know. But anyway, look at how slow-paced this is. With Campbell just using his lead hand, controlling Linares, keeping Linares on the outside. Linares steps forward, right, and he sticks that glove in his face. Sorry about the cutoff, too. I didn't realize how far down I set my thing. You can't see the top of his head. Hopefully it doesn't bother you guys. If it does, whatever. But Linares trying to get his glove to the outside of Campbell's, right, and timing him now and going to the body, right. He realizes that, right. feints him, right? Gets him to stick his glove out there. And this is very important. This is exactly what he's going to need to do. But notice again, he can't follow it up because I think he's stepping to the inside, you know, where he puts his foot to the inside of his opponent's lead foot. And I love this from Campbell. Feint, feint. And look at how he uses his left hand to probe, right? To make Linares think. Look at how, now this is like textbook controlling your opponent, right? Stick the lead hand out. What does Linares do? Brings his glove up, right? Stick the lead hand out there. Linares starts bringing his gloves up. Fake the left hand. Linares has to pull back. And this is controlling your opponent. Like, think about it like you're playing a video game, right? You press the A button and the fighter punches, right? But in this case, you press the A button, right? And Linares brings his glove up. You press the B button, Linares dips back like this. That's controlling your opponent, right? Now, Linares always has the opportunity to break this control, right? By giving him another pattern, right? But what Campbell is doing here is looking for patterns, right? So maybe he's going to throw that left hand out there again and see how Linares reacts again. And then eventually he's going to, maybe he'll do that and then he'll shuffle forward and catch him with an uppercut as he leans back, right? Who knows what he could do? He could do anything he wants, right? But the idea here is that he's using this to gather information about his opponent and not just recklessly run in and throw punches at him and expect them to land because, and we'll get into this when we talk about Linares' offense, which is more important than what Campbell is doing. The reason that it's important that Campbell is doing it, right, is just that controlling him in this way limited Linares' offense so much that Linares didn't have very many opportunities to score, right? And if we do a second set of these rounds, rounds 4, 5, and 6, you'll see that when Campbell starts moving to his left, right, Linares doesn't have a lot of opportunities to score against him, right? He doesn't. He's not letting his hands go. He's not landing a lot of punches, and it's really easy to take Linares's. Okay, so right there, exactly what I was talking about, right? He's seen that Linares is going to dip back like this, so he goes for a body shot, and Linares actually adjusts after moving back, after seeing the left hand coming. He's like, oh, left hand's coming. Oh, it's to the body, and he readjusts and takes a step back instead. But Campbell's showing that he's using that knowledge of those probes, right, to set up his offense, right? He knew that there was no counter coming back, so it was safe to throw that shot. He thought that likely it was going to land, but that's how you set your punches up, you guys. And the reason that that's important is when we talk about Linares' setups, he doesn't always set his punches up very well. He kind of just throws combinations, and I think that's very dangerous, especially against a smart fighter like Lomachenko. Who's very, very, very good at taking away your first shot. But anyway, probing, again. I can't remember what I was talking about before I started talking about that. If you can take away your opponent's offense or just make it so that they're not able to punch as often as they normally do, they're just inherently going to be behind on the cards, right? If you look at, like, I don't want to say Mayweather as an example, right? But I will use Mayweather as an example. He spends a lot of time, running, right? So he'll throw punches, boom, and he'll move, and you don't really get a lot of opportunities to let your hands go, right? You don't get a lot of opportunities to let your hands go, so you just inherently start falling behind on the cards. If you're not throwing punches, while he throws punches, even if you block them all, right? It looks like he's busier. Some of them may look like they land, right? Some of them may be grazing. But because of the fact that he's able to slow your offense down enough that he looks like he's winning the rounds, even though maybe nothing is happening, right? And I'm not saying this is the case, right? This is just to let you guys understand the theory, right? That you're not winning rounds, that you're not throwing punches, right? So the more that your offense is mitigated, the less chance that you have of winning the round. And that's why it's so important that having the head movement, having the feinting and the probing to keep your opponent, not only keep them honest so they don't just run in there and knock you out by throwing a 20 punch combination and landing one shot, but it stops them from putting themselves into a position to win rounds, to win close rounds, right, where nothing happens because they're just not active enough, right? So you're kind of gaming the system in that regard. Now, the interesting thing about that is that Linares has a very active guard too, right? And we'll get to that too. I hope you guys have been paying attention to it, but we'll get into that too. But I want to talk about how he lands this combination right here, right? So he feints, he's dipping to the outside, right? And he shoots that jab. And notice how he steps to the inside with his jab, and then he repositions his foot so he can get it to the outside and land this left hand, getting under the counter, right? And if I was paying more attention, it might be because he's predicting that Campbell is trying to land the left hook. As we saw earlier, right, when he went to the body, right, he probed with this way, and then he went to the body with the jab, and he saw that Campbell kind of came with the right hook a little bit, like not a real hard shot, but just kind of a probing, like, oh, can I land this, testing the timing or whatever. So he might be thinking that that's an opportunity for him to get on the inside of that hook and land his right hand, right, which he does actually do right there. I wouldn't necessarily, it was super safe, it wasn't set up super well, but it's more important than you read your opponent than just not setting up your punches. I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway. Now I want to talk about Linares' active guard, right? And this is the part that might give Lomachenko some pause, right? So probing right here. And notice how he does that when he transfers his weight from his left leg to his right leg. He doesn't just go here to here, right? Whoops. Go back, sorry. Step. Boom. Boom. And he comes back. Notice how he comes back and he gives that little, sticks his little hand out there. He needs to control his opponent when he's shifting his weight, right? Shifting your weight is dangerous, right? It's the same idea that when you throw a punch, right? And this is, God, if you guys watched the fights over the weekend, Jacobs versus Selinski, Roy Jones, Roy Jones says that's the best time to punch your opponent is when they're punching you, right? And that's like kind of the motto for most boxers, you know, like if you watch a lot of stale fights, a lot of fighters standing in front of each other, right? If you watch Jean Pascal versus Aletier Alvarez, they just stand in front of each other basically the whole fight, waiting for the other one to punch so that the other one can counter. Aletier is moving forward and sometimes jabbing, you know, sometimes, but most of the time they're both waiting for their opponent to put themselves out of the position to punch, right? And the great irony here is that Roy Jones is basically telling on himself for not knowing how to set up his punches, right? And real quick, on that theory, right? The reason that it's good to wait for your opponent to set up to throw their punches before you set your punches up is because if you're punching, you're not in a position to defend yourself, right? You're out of position, right? Even when you're punching, you're out of position. That's why they have all these crazy little tricks, right? So you throw your jab, right? You tuck you can't see my shoulder because my sweatshirt's black, but you tuck your shoulder behind your chin, as you can see a little bit right there, right? Hide your chin, right? Duck your head down, bring your shoulder up, right? You do all these little things. You move your head, right? You have all these little tricks because you're out of position when you punch. Shit, where was I going with that? Man, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, man, I thought that was going to be a really good point too. God damn it. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, we're going to go back to Linares' active guard and how he's moving, right? Now, the idea here is that maybe he's going to be able to, oh, God, I love this, right? Feinting, probing, right? Slipping, rolling, right? And look at how he's constantly moving his head, right? If he's not doing this, Campbell is going to be destroying him like he destroyed all his other fights, right? I think he might actually have another loss on his record before this. I'm not sure. But the fact that he's constantly moving his head, he's got his active guard, he's making Campbell think, and Campbell doesn't have the opportunity to commit to his shots. Oh, that's what it was, committing to your shots. Transferring your weight, right? The reason is because now you're out of position, right? And that's why you need to control your opponent when you shift your weight, right? Anytime you take a step, you want to control them. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of fighters have this style, right? See how he takes his step here, right leg, left leg, right? And when you're stepping, you're breaking your own rhythm, right? You're breaking your own body mechanics because you're moving your foot to a position where you're no longer in a position where you normally train to throw punches, right? So they do that, and it's kind of like a timing where you can how do you say it? You can lead your offense. Canelo Alvarez has this timing. David Lemieux has it. Golovkin loves to take advantage of it against other fighters. That's probably like one of the best things about Golovkin is that he's so good at picking apart the small imperfections in your technique. But as you see, he takes that step. He takes a step, right, and then he shuffles forward, right, to try to land that right hand. Because he's moving his weight, right? So he understands that that's when his opponent may attack him. So you can mitigate the opportunity for your opponent to attack you on that axis if you're attacking them, right? He moves his head, but it's very similar to when he transferred his weight to his right leg and he kind of probed, right? Because he knows he needs to control his opponent. Again, stepping to the inside with his jab. And notice how, like, there hasn't been a lot of action. I've definitely said more words than these guys have thrown punches, or even more sentences than they've thrown punches. But that comes from the active guard of both fighters, right? Linares probing right here, stepping forward. Look at how he steps forward and he slips to the outside, slips to the inside. When he steps his weight onto his front leg, he dips really far down, right? To get out of the line, right? Slipping that shot. He doesn't even need to slip this shot. He's just got this active guard, right? He may not even have seen that shot coming. He's just moving his head naturally. And this might give Lomachenko some pause, right? It might make it so that Linares looks like he might win a few of the earlier rounds while Lomachenko is adjusting to it, right? Which may be very, very, very important for him if he's able to last all 12 rounds. Because he's the bigger guy, right? Because he might just be so much bigger than Lomachenko that he's able to take advantage of the size. I don't really think it's going to be the case, right? But, giving him every opportunity, right, to do these kinds of things. Now, this is not a real punch from Campbell, right? It's more of like a creating space thing. Maybe he's trying to time him while he moves, right? Dip to the left, dip to the right, and he's expecting a dip to the left, right? So he throws that shot, right? But it's not really set up. He's just kind of timing him, but Linares has his hand up. But again, we'll see when Linares starts throwing some punches, how he sets them up, and we'll kind of break them down. If they're pattern-based, again, stepping to the inside, I think this is going to be a huge mistake, especially how easy it is to time his jab, right? So steps on that front leg and then shoots the shot, right? But as far as throwing his other punches, now I don't watch a lot of boxing content. I like to look at articles, but like mostly just the headlines, right? The headline gives everything away. Oh, this guy's fighting this guy. This guy's doing this, right? And it's like, cool, that's enough information for me. I don't need to read whatever like garbage you're going to say about it, Oh, this might be, some clickbait garbage, whatever it is. But I recently had a video, because I would click on my own video to look at the comments and to reply to the comments for the Linares Lomachenko. I found someone else's film study on the fight, and they were talking about how Linares throws his right hand to set up his left hook, or throws his left hook to set up his right hand. And I kind of want to talk about that. Whoops, why did it go so far? And I kind of want to talk about that and how inappropriate it is to commit to punches to set up other punches, and how, I don't want to say exactly how amateurish that is, right? But it's very, very, very basic level boxing, right? And we'll talk about why, right? And it's part of the like whole Shabransky-Kovalev thing, right? You commit to your jab, your opponent starts timing that jab, that first punch, right? And can knock you out on it, right? And we already saw from the film study that Lomachenko is very good. Lomachenko is very good at taking away your first punch, right? Which is why it's important for Linares to punch in combination, right? Assuming he doesn't get clipped really hard by that first setup shot. But again, right here, right? Linares stepping to the inside, getting countered by Luke Campbell. Super easy shot from Luke Campbell while he's moving to his right, away from Linares' shot. Linares thinks he's going to be able to sneak in that jab. But again, it's really easy to time him, right? And we'll take a look at that timing too, right? Step on that lead foot, step on that lead foot, and then hops forward. And you can just automatically tell what he's going to do as soon as he takes that next step, right? because it's all the weight on the lead foot, and Campbell's able to catch him with that jab. But again, not really. He didn't really set the shot up either, right? And that's what's really important, is that although he has that active guard, right, it doesn't look like he's really using it when he's setting up his punches, right? Which is really interesting and counterintuitive, right? Because you should be using that head movement, that slipping, right? All that stuff to set your shots up, right? You go boom, 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 and then you do your next one, you throw a right hand off of it, right off of the head movement. But let's see. Controlling Campbell's lead hand. And this is something, if he can remember to do this against Lomachenko, right, he might be able to keep Lomachenko's hands in his own guard, right? This is going to be huge for him. But we'll see if it's something that he knows how to do correctly, right? Because there's two levels to this, right? When your opponent is fighting for lead hand control, right, or lead hand dominance, right, and the fighter who has their hands at home is the one who lost that battle, right? So at the moment, Luke Campbell is giving away all control to Linares, right, because he's getting controlled right there. Now the idea here is that you can start fighting off of that axis, right? And what winds up happening is now instead of having the whole overarching boxing game that's going on, you have this little mini game that you want to battle out first to see who's going to have control of the lead hands before you get back to the rest of the boxing, right? So while you're figuring that out, you're looking for ways to hit your opponent while you guys are fighting for it. And the most common way is touch gloves, fake touch gloves, and throw a right hand, right? Or throw a left hand in Campbell's situation. Or fake touch gloves, right? Like you're going to commit to it and then go around the guard when they meet gloves with you, right? But you want to punch them on that timing, right? To make them pause and be like, oh, I didn't see that coming, And the idea here will be, because Luke Campbell and Linares don't really fight over that at all, it'll be interesting to see if he can take this strategy of keeping Campbell's glove at home, right, and turn it into any kind of offense when Lomachenko does that with him, right, if they start battling over lead hand dominance. Because notice, right after, for some reason, Linares gave all control away, right? He stopped controlling the space. He's kind of coming in, and I'm not sure what he's doing in this instance, right? Landing a good left hand right there, right? But notice how he has to commit to this jab first, right, and then come in with the left hook, which I don't really like, because if Campbell just shoots him with that jab, that same jab he did before, boom, just right down the top, right? He could catch him, break his rhythm, right, and stop him. But also, look at how he times him with this hook, right? It doesn't land, right? It's kind of the back of the head because he doesn't anticipate Linares ducking down as far, right? But the idea here is that it's very easy to time his offense because he's not setting his shot up, right? If you notice, he's not able to get Campbell out of position, right, before he starts initiating his offense. So he starts coming in, right, off his really easy timing, takes that step forward, starts going to the body, right, and now Campbell's glove is already coming at him because he's committing to his body mechanics first, right, taking that step, boom, and committing himself to the jab and putting himself out of position. And while he's doing that, Campbell is able to say, hey, I see what you're doing. I've seen people throw this punch 1,000 times. I've trained the counter in the gym 1,000 times. And he's able to start setting up that left hook counter or that right hook counter, right? It doesn't land right there, right? Which is not the point, right? The idea here is that that against a better fighter, right? And Luke Campbell is very green, you guys. He's very green. He's so young in his career. I think he might be like 13 when he fought him. But Lomachenko is not green. Lomachenko is not green, and he will be able to land those hooks. He will be able to take advantage of the fact that Linares isn't utilizing this active guard, right? The active guard is keeping Campbell from being as active as he would like, right? But he's not setting up any shots off of it. He's not using all of the advantages that he has by having this rhythm. Actually, that one, that's not too bad right there, right? But again, it's really easy to time him because it's all off that lead foot, right? He doesn't land that shot either, But that's not the point either, right? It's whether he uses those movements, right? Now he gets Campbell a little out of position here, right? And he's able to like kind of throw some shots, right? And what I mean by Campbell being out of position, Campbell primarily being defending himself by moving away from Linares, or countering, puts himself out of position by just putting his gloves up like this and moving back, right? So he's not in a position to punch, right? Even though he kind of lands that off of like reeling off the ropes, I don't think there's any power in Campbell's shot. But Linares finding an opportunity right there with a little bit of pressure to get Campbell out of position, right? And now it's really important, right, that you make sure that when you're throwing your shots, you're getting your opponent out of position. Now, right here, remember when I was talking about that lead hand control, controlling your opponent, touching gloves? Notice how they both touch gloves right here? Now, what Linares wants to do is he wants to stick his glove out again, right? Stick it out one more time, right? And look at how, oh God, this is beautiful. This is exactly what I was talking about, right? So they touch the gloves, right? And then Campbell goes to touch the gloves again, right? And he gets Linares to bring his own glove out, like they're going to touch gloves again, but instead he shoots his jab underneath, right? To maintain control of the space between them. He fakes like he's going to shoot that jab to touch gloves again, but he turns it into a real punch. And this is exactly what you want to do. This is that little mini game I was telling you about where you start battling for it. And now, after a few times of this, right, if Campbell was actually able to land that shot, right, or if he did that, boom, feinted the lead hand, got Linares to duck down like that and came wide with a left like hook, right, he might be able to catch Linares and stop Linares at all from trying to control his lead hand at all, and that would allow him to get back to his normal game plan of controlling him, circling to the right, and throwing left hands, right? But that's why you want to do that, because it kind of interrupts your main game plan, right? Because if your main game plan is to control your opponent and your opponent is battling you for a lead hand dominance, then you have to find a way to get that so you can get back to your original game plan. Now, it's like really hard. The reason why this is because it's really hard to formulate a whole new game plan for a fight. This is beautiful, by the way. Just watch this sequence. Watch how Campbell controls Linares, right? I showed you this clip already, right? Boom. But watch how Linares tries to cut the ring off, right? He starts moving that way. Campbell says, nope, I'll move back this way, right? Now he starts closing the distance again. Campbell just sticks his lead hand out there. It's not a real punch, right? But he's able to get Linares to lean out this way, right? Control him again. Feint him with the right hand, right? He's now almost in the corner, right? Campbell's almost in the corner right now, right? Control him with the lead hand. Feint him with the left hand again. And then throw this like weird right hook thing, right? And it gets Linares to dip to his right, put all his weight on his right leg, and Campbell's able to easily circle out away from the corner, right? Now, what's the interesting thing about that, right? Controlling him again, right? Circling the ring, right? Nothing has happened for the last, let's see, how long was that? So if we started from here, right, at 2 minutes, the 2-minute mark, Linares is closing the distance on him, trying to stalk him, right? Trying to cut the ring off. It's like 20 seconds of the fight that goes by where Linares does nothing, right? And he's doing nothing not because, right, and this is like the Lucas Brown syndrome, right? Everyone said that Lucas Brown was a dead body in that fight. He didn't do anything against Dillian Whyte, but it's not true. Dillian Whyte took away Lucas Brown's offense, right? Lucas Brown would throw punches, and then Dillian Whyte would catch him, right? And then, boom, counter him, right? And now Lucas Brown was like, oh, well, I don't want to throw my right hand anymore. I'll use my jab. Oh, slip. Throw the right hand over the top of the jab. Or catch it and throw his own right hand, right? And it takes away Lucas Brown's offense. So now Lucas Brown's like, I got to think about what I'm going to, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? While he's getting punched in the face, he has to think about it and formulate a new game plan. More than likely because he didn't have one in the first place, right? But Linares is able to, or Campbell is able to control him with this feinting, this lead hand, these motions, lead hand dominance, right? And slow the fight down to a pace where he's able to think and set his shots up, even though he's not doing a lot either, right? But the idea is that if he can do that for 20 seconds and then land one punch and then reset and do it again for another 20 seconds and land one punch, he can Mayweather Linares, right? And I think that that's something that both fighters are going to be looking to kind of do to each other, right? Now, the interesting thing is that Linares is the one moving forward. Linares is the one that's, presumably being active. I think again, Linares not setting up his shot, right? Taking the lead foot or giving away lead foot dominance and actually getting countered right there, right? And now I know like what he's doing here. He's baiting the counter so he can land his counter over the top, right? So he's feinting like he's going to use a jab to the body again so he can kind of land the right hook. But again, he's not setting it up and he's putting himself out of position first. Not only is it probably not the greatest counter, right? And that's just like, what else is he going to do when Campbell's moving to his right, right? Because he's not going to be able to land the right hand, right? He needs to figure out like a better offense. But part of the problem is stemming from the fact that he's giving up lead foot dominance and putting himself into a position where he's not able to land his shots, And again, in the last 30 seconds, Linares has thrown 2 punches, right? And neither of them have landed. Now, he does wind up winning this round. Actually, we're only going to do 2 rounds right now because we're already at 35 minutes. But now Linares does wind up winning this round. But as you can see throughout the entire round, he's losing it. Campbell is able to control him, feint him, and when Linares does commit to his shots, right, he's getting kind of faux countered because he's not setting them up, right? Ooh, now that is a great shot from Linares, right? Now this is really interesting because he comes in, throws the right hand, right? And then, God damn it, throws the right hand, right? And he misses, right? Campbell rolls it, right? And he comes back with his own right hand and his own counter punch, right? But Linares lands that left hook, right? Now, the reason that he doesn't land the left hook or the right hand is because he gives up lead foot dominance. You can't see it right here, right? But you can just tell by the way that, look at their legs right now. You can tell if you have great depth perception that Campbell's right leg is on the outside of Linares' left leg, right? And that's why he's so far on the inside of that right hook from Campbell, right? It's so short and compact, right? Now, the problem that I have with this, right, and it's a fine setup, to be honest, it lands. That's all you want, right? That's what you want, right? But the fact that he has to commit to this right hand first, he kind of shifts forward, right, which is great. Maybe I'm not giving him enough credit because I didn't notice the shift at first, to be honest. I didn't notice it at all. But he kind of shifts forward, and he's able to land that right hook. So that's actually, like, really good. I wonder if he'll be able to do stuff like that against Lomachenko. But the only thing that I don't like is that he does commit to that right hand first, right? Now, maybe that right hand is just so that he can shift forward, in which case that's great. But it's interesting because he hasn't done any shifting before, right? So how does he know what's going to work? Maybe that's the adjustment that he's making because he knows that Campbell's looking to counter with that right hook of his own. So that's how he's going to get on the inside. I'm not sure. If I had noticed it when I had previously done the film study, I'd be watching for opportunities for him to shift. But again, he doesn't exactly, I don't think he knows how Campbell's going to react, right? So at this point, we can assume that Campbell is going to throw the right hook, right? So if he's throwing the right hook and Campbell, and then he's throwing the right hand, right? And Campbell's throwing the right hook. He's putting himself out of position into that right hook, right? So it's kind of fortunate that Campbell doesn't throw that right hook, right? But again, this instance, right, because they've never really had an engagement, boom, where he's throwing this combination. He doesn't know what Campbell's going to do or how Campbell's going to react, so it's a dangerous position to put himself in. It does wind up working out in Linares' favor, right? And this is exactly what I think he needs to be doing against Lomachenko, right? Is putting himself in kind of unpredictable situations because I don't think that he's going to win the predictable ones and landing a great shot, right? Maybe because of his speed. The shift was great, to be honest. I hope they do a replay of it. I'll stay for the rest of the round to see if they do. But again, Linares going back to not really setting up his shots and getting into the kind of unpredictable nature, And that's not where you want to be. You want everything in boxing to be predictable, because it can be, you know. Oh, and beautiful right here, right? So this is the knockdown, and this is the part where Linares wins the round, right? He lost the rest of the round. He lost the first 2 minutes, right? Even after landing that right hook, he was still behind, right? But he comes forward, shoots that right hand, takes lead foot dominance, steps forward, right? And I guess this is the point where he thinks that Campbell is going to start throwing that right hook, right? And lands his right hand as well, right? Now, there's not a lot of like setup to this, right? And this is what I don't like about it, right? He has to commit to this right hand, shift all his weight to his left leg, step forward, throw a right hook, or throw a left hook, and then he starts throwing the right hand, right? Now, the film study that I watched from another person's channel said that Linares was setting up this right hand by throwing the left hook, right? Which is like, that's like, for me, someone who boxed and someone who's been punched in the goddamn face, this is not how you set up your punches, because it's so easy to train to take away someone's right hook or someone's left hook. It's so easy to train to take someone's right hand away. And I'll be doing a film study on that. Not a film study, but a boxing breakdown talking about how to train this kind of stuff. It's so easy. It's just one drill. It's so easy. And I'll show you guys how to do it. And I'll show you guys how to, take away those shots so that you can always do it in the gym, right? You can always do it in the gym. You can always do it in sparring, right? And it becomes just second nature. It's just what you do, right? Excuse me. What Linares does do, right? And again, I don't know if he's predicting that the counter is going to come. I don't know, because we've never seen any pattern for this before, right? But punching in combination, right? Getting into those unpredictable situations and allowing your speed to take over, right? Because he just gets there quicker than Campbell, right? And now the shot's not like, it doesn't hurt him, right? He immediately looks to the ref. His head doesn't bounce back on the canvas, just catches him off guard while he's kind of shifting backwards himself to throw that right hook. But he gets up and he fights the rest of the round, and he's okay. But again, this is how I think that he has a chance to beat Lomachenko, right? Because Lomachenko does the same thing. He'll just move back, right? And it's a really interesting strategy. It's kind of in the same vein of what Mayweather would do, right? So remember I talked earlier about Mayweather's style. When he is moving around the ring and he's not sitting on the ropes with this boom, boom, Philly shell shit, right? Waiting for you to kind of open up and allow him to land some body shots on the inside. And we're just going to play the rest of the round. I don't think... actually, this is probably really important to talk about. And I'll talk about the Mayweather stuff after. Table Mayweather. I'll try to remember. But look at how Linares is not setting up his shots anymore, right? He just scored a great knockdown against this guy. He's not attacking him, right? There's a decent setup right there, right? Probing shot. He gets him into the high guard, throws a right hook, and then a left hand, and then a left hand to the body, right? But look at how he commits to all these shots, right? And all of them just to land this left hook to the body, right? It's very dangerous to commit to all these shots because you can get countered. And these counters are just so easy. I know a lot of people think like counterpunching is a skill, right? It is, right? But it's also one of the easiest skills to train in boxing because you just... I'll show you in the video when I make a video, maybe in a couple weeks. Maybe next week. I'm not sure. I'll talk to my friend. We'll see what she wants to do. But look at how Linares is setting up his punches here, right? So he comes forward. He sets up the right hand by what? How does he set up the right hand? By committing to a left hook, right? By opening up his guard, right? Look how open he is, right? To maybe a Campbell straight left hand, right? Or a Campbell right hook, right? Boom, right? And then he throws the left hook, which is a great left hook, right? But you don't set your punches up by putting yourself out of position with other punches. Maybe I haven't made that part of the idea clear, is that when you do punch, you're out of position, and you don't put yourself out of position to hope that your opponent's going to put themselves out of position, right? It's kind of like betting against the house, right? The house always has the odds are always in the house's favor, right? Like even if you're playing like roulette, right, which has like the highest odds, I guess, or the least amount that's in the favor of the house. Like it's like, you know, 51% for the house or something. So they just make money, but you on that 40, the people who hit that 49%, whatever it is, I don't really know. I don't know anything about gambling. I never gamble. Um, but it's betting against the house, right? You're putting your dollar in and saying, hey, are you going to put a dollar in, right? But if you use your feints and you use your probes, you can put 10 cents in and get them to commit a dollar, right? And then counter their dollar with the right hand that knocks them out, right? But you don't ever want to go dollar for dollar for your opponent. I guess that's a good way to say it, dollar for dollar. But right here, probing, right? And look at how he gets Campbell to shoot the first right hand, boom, and counter him, right? Now, I don't know. Let's see if either of these guys land a shot, right? But he tries to counter that jab, that probing jab. But because it's a probing shot, he's not committing to it, right? He's able to pull counter, basically, right? Get away from it. Even though Campbell is kind of landing his own shot. But I can't even tell. It does look like Campbell gets rocked a little bit. Boom, and knocked off balance, and that's why he misses his right hand. But this is exactly how you set your punches up. Now, this is exactly what Linares needs to do. Probe, right? And then, slight pull counter. You just move your head a little bit and come back with your right hand, right? It doesn't land super flush, right? But it knocks him off balance and stops him from being able to land his own shot. But that's an example of putting your 10 cents in, right? And getting your opponent to put a dollar in, right? And you can land your own counter, right? And that's exactly what I guess the whole boxing theory is based on, right? Is getting your opponent out of position first. And in that situation, let's look at that again, right? So he's not committing to this jab. He's not committing to this jab, right? So if you think about it, Linares is standing here like this. Even though he's using his lead hand, his body mechanics are not changing. He's staying there. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Right? And Luke Campbell says, you know what? I think I'll give you one of these. Boom. And now he transfers his weight from a neutral position where he can move back and forth to all his weight on his right leg, right? And throws his straight left hand, right? Boom. Now he's out of position, right? He's not in a position to defend himself because he can't pull his weight back like that because he just threw all his weight to his right leg, right? And that puts him out of position from being able to get his hand back, right, and defend against the next oncoming shot. So he's able to put Campbell out of position first and then land his right hand, even though it kind of lands like in an awkward spot, maybe on the right side of Campbell's face. That's why it pushes him off balance and doesn't just knock him out from hitting him on the chin. But this is exactly what you want to do, right? And unfortunately for Linares, he just doesn't do that enough, right? He winds up putting his chips in first and waiting for Campbell and hoping that Campbell puts himself in an equally bad position so that he can follow up with a combination, right? And I just don't think that's not boxing. I mean, that's like all those street fights that you see, right? Like if you go watch a street fight video and you see two guys slugging it out, right? That's exactly what that is. It's just that these guys are better at slugging it out than those guys online, right? That's the only difference. Anyway, there's only 8 seconds left. I'm not going to do a highlight of the... oh, yeah, I got to talk about the Mayweather shit. So, what was I going to go with that? Oh, yes. So Mayweather's idea, right? So you circle around, you frustrate your opponent, you make them, and it's kind of like also like Roy Jones' style, right? Where you throw flashy punches and you move away real quick. Even if none of them land, right? You look good. You look like you're scoring. Whoop-de-doo. But you frustrate your opponent, right? And then you get them to open up in areas where they wouldn't normally open up, right? Again, putting their chips in, right? Putting themselves out of position first, and then allows you to counter them better because now they're making mistakes because allowing you to just throw random punches at them while they run around the ring, not run, literally run, right? Or metaphorically run, but while they maneuver around the ring, right? I throw boom, boom, 1-2, right? Oh, 1-2, right? Catch that shit, easy. I don't have an opportunity to score against you. Right? Because after you threw that 1-2, if I didn't counter you, I don't have an opportunity where you're going to stand in front of me and I can set my shots up. You just keep moving. You're going to be winning based off of bad judging angles, right? Oh, from one angle, it looked like that punch landed, right? So he does that at this angle, then he does that at this angle, then he does it at this angle. He's done it 3 times. None of the punches has landed, but this judge thought you landed a punch over here. This judge thought you landed a punch over here, and this judge thought you landed a punch over here. All of a sudden, you've landed one punch by each of the judges, and the judges are like, oh, he won that round because he landed one punch, right? Shit, man, I forgot where I was going with that. But anyway, at that point, your opponent starts opening up in spots that they shouldn't open up, right? Putting themselves out of position in spots where they shouldn't be putting themselves out of position because you're not allowing them into the fight, right? Into the fight. I know that's like a weird like buzzword kind of thing, and I hate that kind of stuff, but it's kind of like cheesing your opponent, you know? Like, I don't know if you guys have ever played video games and you use a cheap tactic, you know, to win, you know? Like, it's very prevalent in the video games, right? When you get that really hard level or whatever. But that's basically what you're doing, right? And you use your athleticism, you use the tangible aspects of boxing to take advantage of your opponent's intangibles. Now, it might sound smart, but it's also boring. It's also not really boxing. And Lomachenko kind of does this to a degree, right? And this might be something that's really interesting if Linares can put enough pressure onto Lomachenko, because Lomachenko, he doesn't fight going backwards, you know? It's not that he can't. He just doesn't do it, right? If you pressure him, he just puts up his high guard, right? And moves back, right? He just runs away, you know, and waits for you to stop chasing him, right? Now, if you watch a lot of Mayweather fights, this is really fascinating. If you watch a lot of Mayweather fights, notice at the beginning of the rounds when his opponents start putting a lot of pressure on him and they're like chasing him, right? Like, go get him. And they run out there. Oof, you know? And then you see Mayweather just put his hands up, stands like basically perpendicular to the ring, right? He just puts his hands up and side straddle hops around the whole ring. And you chase him around and he's just going like this. You know, he's not in a boxing position. He doesn't have his hands up, right? He can't counter you. But you're chasing him because your coach said, go put pressure on him, go do that. And every time you put that kind of pressure on him, he just side straddle hops away until you stop doing it. You know what I mean? So now you're no longer putting that kind of pressure because in your mind, you know, oh, he's going to side straddle hop, so I have to slow my game down. So now you slow your game down and you're playing his game. You're fighting where he wants to fight. Because you can't make it a fight any other way, right? So he makes you fight his fight. And Lomachenko does something very similar because he'll just put his high guard up, run away, and won't engage with you, and hope that you'll go back to your own, hope you'll go back to his game plan, right? So I think that that's also where Linares has a chance to compete with Lomachenko. And I guess the proof is in kind of, where are they going to show it? Okay. It's here with this knockdown, right? If Linares can keep chasing him, right, and maybe produce a knockdown like this against Lomachenko, you know, maybe not hurt him, but, you know, find a way to catch him off balance or whatever. Maybe hurt him. I don't know. But anyway, there was more to that Mayweather-Lomachenko rant than that, but I don't remember what it is. Anyway, later, guys.